You graduated from IIT, you worked at Microsoft, you worked at Google, PhD from UT Austin in artificial intelligence when artificial intelligence was not mainstream. For me, you're like a chief AI scientist. What is that definition of consciousness, wisdom?
One is what I call the sense of identity, and one is the sense of purpose.
For Gen Zs and Gen Alpha,
Deriving pleasure in how other people look at me,
the distractions are enormous,
how many likes and how many views or how many people follow.
that you are born with certain level of impressions, and how do you notice that?
Technology, it is making information and solace and comfort and companionship so easy outside that we have forgotten, the true sense of who we are within us. And I think this is something that I see as the big dangers. Job losses, yes. Skill losses, even more. But loss of sense of identity and purpose is a very, very profound thing.
Well, I'm excited to have our guest today, Dr. Sailesh Kumar. Dr. Sailesh sits at a very consequential intersection of our era today, right? At the intersection of deep AI understanding and philosophical understanding of consciousness. So given that he has gone deep into AI, we'll ask him as to, what does it mean that AI is going to take over intelligence, and what does it mean to humanity from that perspective? So let's get started. Welcome, Dr. Sailesh.
Thank you, Ravi, for inviting.
So let's set the tone for the podcast. Dr. Sailesh, welcome to Being Conscious.
Thank you.
We are at a very interesting crossroad today, right? We are going to be asking one critical question as AI is going to become mainstream, and with all the distractions and the speed of life, how do people look at this from future next 10 to 20 years perspective, as humanity will be at the intersection of questioning the identity, especially because for ages intelligence has been a scarce commodity, and as a result, humanity has been pursuing intelligence, especially for Gen Zs and Gen Alpha, where the distractions are enormous and mental health crisis is all-time high and exploding. What is that definition of consciousness, wisdom, and how important is that? So let's get started with that.
So this is a very profound question. And given the saints of the world have been asking this question for a very long time, and to me, I think there are two aspects to who we are. One is what I call the sense of identity, and one is the sense of purpose. And as we look at the history of human evolution, we have been evolving our sense of identity and sense of purpose, right? So identities have been evolved in the sense I'm a rich or a poor, I'm from this caste or this religion, I'm a software engineer or a farmer, right? So I've been trying to figure out who we are in terms of external sources of identity. And then external sources of purpose also, which is what am I doing here? What is my purpose? And that keeps evolving as we grow through life. When we are a baby, we have a different purpose. When we are a toddler, we have a different purpose. When we are in school and college, our purpose is evolving. But today, in the world of AI, both our sense of identity and our sense of purpose is questioned all over again. And we have to reimagine who we are and why we are here uh, is now coming back again. And everybody has to keep thinking about that. And the answers we are looking for cannot come from outside. That is the turning point that we should think about, which is if I go asking people on Facebook or looking outside at how many likes and how many views or how many people follow, if I keep deriving pleasure in how other people look at me, then I'm not developing my own sense of identity. That has become my sense of identity, which is how people are looking at me versus who am I really is the real sense of identity. So I think where to look for these profound questions is very important. Should we look outside or should we look within? And the more we look within, we will start evolving our consciousness in that way. Otherwise, we are outsourcing these things also to the outside world, which is a danger that I see in today's world. And hopefully, we'll cover some of these ideas, how we learned to become an inward person and not an outward person. All those things, the journey from outside to inside is very important. And hopefully, our audience will, benefit from some of this discussion.
No, great. I think that's a great point, right? Because last century, because of the rise of capitalism globally, to a large extent, the Western world has created a new narrative that is outer growth is inner success. And because for ages, inner growth has been an outer success. And I think what you rightly said, I think pivoting that, saying that because the being conscious, the idea of being conscious was to appreciate the narrative that we are all clean slate, right? At the end of the day, when you're born with enormous amount of genetics and epigenetics of impressions, and acknowledging that you are born with certain level of impressions, and how do you notice that? Like you said, inner state is noticing those impressions and identifying those and defining which of those impressions you want to carry forward, which of that you want to actually subside or let go. Now, 'cause that's, and in your definition, what do you think is being conscious or consciousness as such, and the importance of that in the age of AI, given that you are an AI scientist?
Yeah. So I think one of the words that come to mind when we define conscious is authenticity, right? Like Shakespeare said, be truthful to yourself, right? Uh, so, for example, let me start with my childhood story that one day I was in seventh grade and the teacher asked, what do you want to become? And that was the first time I started to become conscious that I have to become somebody. Till then, I was just doing what everybody was telling me to do, right? Go to school, get good grades. And then somebody said, what do you want to become? Was the first trigger that, oh, I'm not here to just lead my life one day at a time. Actually, I'm here to become something. And what is that becoming is the first trigger that we have to think about, right? So, what is our aspiration? What are we becoming is part of our, consciousness. It grows our consciousness in that direction. Let me give you another example. So I was I was a good student. I used to get good grades. And one day my friend got a better grade in a biology class and I became jealous. For the first time in my life, I became jealous. Not only did I become jealous, I was able to notice that I have become jealous. These are two different things. This is another kind of consciousness, which is self-awareness. While we are going through life, we are either going through life without thinking about life, but we are also can go through life by observing how we are going through life. That, the me as a doer and me as a observer of myself are two me's. And the more we develop the observer of myself, the more consciously you will live your life. So that day I realized, oh, this is jealousy. Now I know. For the first time I realized this is jealousy or this is whatever, right? And then you start to become a better person and say, oh, this is not good. I should not be jealous. He is my good friend. Then when you lead a life with that feedback loop, that you are an observer, is giving you a feedback loop, therefore you are continuously improving, is a very important skill I developed that day. So that is a very important thing about conscious living, which is how do you become, observer of yourself while doing whatever you're doing. You may do right things, wrong things, but at some point, if you're not aware that, you don't have a self-reflection mechanism, then it's a problem, right?
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. I think there are two very important takeaways you talked about, right? To be conscious, you want to have an idea of what you want to become, right? And so what you're basically saying is life from being to becoming, right? As a human, when we are born, we are human being, and the journey we take from that being to becoming consciously because you have a North Star. You said, this is what I want to become. Now, when you define that, what you're saying is now if you follow the process of just living to observing your living, then you're observing everything that you have as impressions inherited to impressions that you want to carry forward that aligns to your destination of becoming. So I think that's kind of what I took away from what you said.
Yes. And I think nature, when we are born, gives us all the potential, right? And as we go through life, somebody likes football, may become a football player or not. Somebody likes something, may become. So we are born with a lot of talent, which is latent in us. And I feel like one aspect of consciousness is to discover yourself by exploring who you are. Try this, try that, right? Do you like it? Do you like that or not? And then finding your way through life and saying, this is what I should be become. So when the teacher asked me, what do you want to become? In my mind, I thought I want to become a scientist because for me, that was the highest becoming in the material world. I said, I want to become a scientist. And my idea of a scientist was somebody wearing a white robe and mixing chemicals. In the 8th grade, that was my idea of a scientist. The first job I got after graduation, data scientist. And it had nothing to do with the scientist I thought I was going to become. But I became a data scientist, which is also a type of scientist, which we didn't know when I was answering that question in the 8th grade. So in some sense, deep down, we have a feeling of what we want to be, why we are here. And slowly that evolves as we go through life experiences. And we tend to become and gravitate towards certain jobs, certain courses, certain startups, certain people we meet. Somehow, there is this push and pull that happens. And we discover ourselves and we become what we have to become. But if we do it with a sense of joy and purpose, as opposed to just flowing with the flow, that difference is what makes our journey beautiful, right?
Very interesting. So what you're saying is at a 7th or 8th grade, your definition of becoming came from purity of heart, right? Because your mind was yet not distracted or polluted in any form or fashion. So your heart calling was, I want to become a scientist. But then what you're saying is that manifested without your knowledge, but because you were observant as you grew older, that what it takes to become a scientist, eventually you ended up becoming a scientist even without you being every day thinking about it because it manifested. So what you're saying is when your becoming is clear and you become an observer, a lot of things manifest as you want.
Yes, yes.
Right? I think that's the power of consciousness is if you want to become whatever you want to become, and it is from the purity of heart, and you want to become, you are and you're observing, you are automatically subtracting things that are not in line of your becoming.
Got it.
But what you're saying is the clarity of becoming is important. And from what I heard you say is, if your becoming is copying somebody else's becoming, then you lose the identity. Is that right?
Yes. The authenticity, it should be your own as it comes, right? And I know, once somebody asked a very senior master, what is my purpose, right? A kid asked him, and obviously the purpose is different for everyone. And he said, your first purpose is to find your purpose. That itself is a purpose. And that is what we are doing throughout our life. So let me talk a little bit about another episode, right? So, as kids, we love it when teachers are absent and we get a free class. But my reason to be happy when a teacher was absent is not that. My reason was that I'm going to get to teach the class. And this is something I learned in education system today. Today, our education system is very competitive. I got more marks than you and all of that. But I never approached education as if it's a competition or a race, like the 3-day. I approached it as if I can teach that subject to somebody, that is my metric that I have understood it. And I used to go to school with that preparation. So before the class, I am prepared. I go to school hoping and praying that teacher is not there today. So I get to teach that subject. I started teaching in 8th grade. And you know where I am today? I have been teaching since then. I have taught in my UT Austin days, in my undergrad days, in my graduate school days, and even after graduating, I've been giving talks. And eventually, ISP called me and said, "Hey, would you like to teach as a faculty?" Then, many institutes have invited me. So the choices we make early on lead to how you develop as a teacher, for example, or a scientist, because what our subconscious actions and the attitude we bring to those actions eventually lead to what you had to become. And the journey starts way early, but it has to be authentic and yours, not that somebody asked you to do it, but you felt like doing it. And a lot of us don't know the difference. We sometimes confuse between I'm doing this because I'm fulfilling my parents' expectations, or I'm doing this because I really want to do this. And we are constantly in that struggle. So I was very lucky that my parents did not impose anything. So I took medical and engineering, and I didn't know what I was going to do, but I landed up here. So keeping your options open is a skill. Keeping as many options open is a very important skill. So you say, okay, I don't know what I want to do now, but I'm going to do all of these. I don't know which one will succeed. I'll continue to. And closing doors is in your head. So you say, no, I definitely don't want to this. If you close too many doors too early, then we are not exploring the life properly. So I think one of the lessons I learned is keep as many options open as long as you can. Don't decide too early what you want to do, and try many things. Breadth versus depth. Depth will come later. Try to increase the breadth. Explore many, many things, right? And yeah. So one of the reasons I got into AI now, right? I just want to talk about that. So I was an undergrad student. I went to IIT Kanpur to do my internship. I was a computer science student. And there we solved a very interesting problem, how to put a bunch of polygons together in the smallest rectangle. And one of the things about consciousness is, I looked at that problem with a very interesting sense of wonder. This problem does not belong to the domain of computer science at all. There's no computer science way to solve it. And we solved that problem using some other technique, which is very related to how genomics work, how humans evolution happen. It's called genetic algorithm. That day I realized, there is a whole branch, there's a whole way of thinking about problem solving, which is very different than what I've been taught in the school. And that day I wanted to become that person, not a computer scientist. And since then, my journey has been, moved from computer science to AI and data science. So in life, there are only few moments like that, the turning points in your life. And if you are conscious about those moments, if you are putting yourself fully in that moment and utilizing that moment, it has the potential to change your life in a very different direction. Like an opportunity comes to speak, leads to, an appointment letter of a teacher. An opportunity comes to do an internship, could lead to a complete career path change. Being open to such possibilities is what makes life very, very beautiful. Sometimes we overdo this idea that this is what I want to be. But at the same time, the more open minded we are, nature also nudges. So, like you said, right, it's nature and nurture both. Sometimes it is coming from me, sometimes circumstances are making it happen. And it's a combination of all that we become. So, it's very nice if we are open to all of this.
Wonderful. I think so what you're trying to say, right? From being to becoming, there is a process called balancing, balanced living, where you are not getting high with a low time, you're not getting depressed at a low time, you're not getting high on a high time. There is something called as balanced life that keeps you, that becomes a compass that takes you from being to becoming. especially because you've been a scientist. You graduated from IIT. You did PhD from UT Austin in artificial intelligence when artificial intelligence was not mainstream. You worked at Microsoft. You worked at Google. You're today India's, for me, you're like a chief AI scientist. On top of it, my first acquaintance with you was when you gave a keynote to thousands of people on how youngsters should develop their roots, their values, and in a simple way, right? So that was a very profound way to. So what I want to lead towards is we need to evolve a methodology of becoming that becomes easy, because consciousness is a science that has been age-old, defined right from our Bhagavad Gita days. Even today, the spirituality very clearly talks about what is consciousness and what is the framework that if you follow, then life becomes a very interesting journey. Right? If you look at life as a journey versus destination, every day becomes exciting because you become an observer of the journey, right? So could you shed some light on, a methodology of consciousness that, continuously that you become? How do Gen Zs and Gen Alpha look at this as a methodology that they enjoy? They should look at this as a practical recipe for living beautifully. Because too often consciousness has been very esoteric, very subjective. People get scared of it. But like any mathematical formula, I think consciousness is a math. I think you are addressed to youngsters because you teach now at ISB and a lot of B schools. And how do you frame this in a way that this modern generation can understand this and apply this with a lot of conviction?
Yes. So let me go back to the purpose and identity, right? Purpose. My favorite, historical figure, Gautama Buddha. And what was the first thing we learned about him was that, one day he went out and saw the suffering of mankind. And that is when he found his purpose. And that is what I call the Buddha moment. Everybody should find that purpose in life, right? And the moment we find that purpose, that raises our consciousness that now I have a, path to go through, right? Now, why did he find that purpose? Many people were seeing the, dead people, sick people, old people. Not everybody got excited about it. And the reason was that he had a connection within, in his heart, right? He had compassion and all of that. And he could not resist when he saw that level of suffering. So that was the first thing he did, which is what you talked about. The purity of the heart will automatically lead you to find your purpose. Heartfelt purpose. Not a capitalistic purpose, not a show-off purpose, but a truly heartfelt purpose. That is very important, right? Now, the way he solved that problem of suffering of mankind, this is where clarity of mind comes. Now, Mother Teresa solved that problem of suffering of mankind one person at a time. How did Buddha solve that problem? He said, I'm going to find the root cause, I'm going to meditate and go to the depth of the problem and then come up with a solution. And not for those three people, but for all mankind forever. So that is the second quality of Buddha that is very attractive. First, he found his purpose because he was connected with him. Second, he used a higher mind, a higher consciousness to solve the problem and came up with an amazing solution, right? And this is what we are looking for in an entrepreneur. Are you able to have your Buddha moment? Are you able to find the right problem to solve? Now, a lot of people say, no, I want to build a investment AI kind of a solution because my purpose is to make a lot of money without contributing to society. Do you really feel that this is a genuine purpose for you? Right? Or are you doing it because you are driven by lower desires? So I think that is the part of consciousness that we need to work on, which is go deeper, go deeper, go deeper with it. Is this it? Is this it? Right? In our Vedas, we talk about not this, not this, not this, right? Peeling the onions within. So we should not get satisfied with the superficial answer that we are getting from inside, we should pray, we should wait, we should pause and say, is this really the right answer? How do I feel about this? Or is there a deeper answer that I should look for? And the deeper we go, the right answers will come, right? And then we don't have to teach values because people are looking deeper. If you are looking superficial, we will come up with wrong answers, surface answers. We will do wrong things. We will be impulsive. We'll follow the wrong path, right? And a little bit of pause makes you a very different person, right? I'll give you an example. So I was in a company, after my PhD, I finished and I was in a company and I built an algorithm which was like a recommendation engine algorithm before Amazon built. We built an algorithm. And my boss was having a golf game with a CEO of a casino. And he told his friend that, oh, we have built a recommendation engine which can recommend based on what your behavior is. And the casino guy said, oh, we could use it in our casinos. I could recommend which slot machine or which game to play depending on which games you're playing. So my CEO came to my boss and my boss came to me and said, you're going to become famous, you're going to become rich. So he's propping me for, telling me that I need to work on that problem. And I was listening to him and I knew something is wrong. This is not how we talk. And he said, this is an opportunity that has come. If you can build a recommendation engine for gaming industry, especially casinos and all that. So he took like an hour to build up towards this. And I rejected. I said, no, I can't do it. And the reason was that I was connected with him. I was looking at the consequences of my actions on the society in large, but that CEO was looking at the consequences, only on his. So the purpose that I live with is different, and the purpose of a CEO is different, right? And there are many such occasions that we are going to get in our life, right? Where we'll be enticed to do certain things which look good on paper, which look good on the immediate gains, but we have a very bad consequence on society in the long term. And this is one of the powers that technologists have. We don't just know what to do, we also should know, should we do it or not? We should not just say, yes, I can do it, but we should ask, should I do it? Right? And these are the lessons that make you a different person. If you follow the should I do it path versus can I do it path, you become a different person. Another example, we all know 9/11 happened in the US. It was a very bad time in the history. So obviously the whole country decided to build some system to make sure it never happens again. So I was called upon because I was an AI person along with many people. And we created a system which would take every passenger's travel data and an algorithm will decide whether it's a terrorism behavior or a normal behavior. Now, to do that, we had to violate the privacy of all people who are buying the ticket because the data has to come to the government. And at that time, we were so, affected by the 9/11 incident. We said it's okay to violate privacy. We have to solve for security because we were all hyped up at that time. We were not thinking right. The case went to Supreme Court, privacy versus security, and Supreme Court of the US said, no, you cannot violate privacy for the sake of security. This lesson was a very important lesson for me that, today we talk about ethical AI and all of that. Now, at that time, we did feel that, oh, maybe what we're doing is not right. But when Supreme Court also agreed, we became even more conscious of that. So these kind of ethical decisions we have to make sometimes. Where will they come from? They can be imposed by society and they can come from within. The more they come from within, the less they have to be imposed from society. And that is what people will do. They will naturally do the right things in the right situations, however enticing or, hyped up the situation looks like. Take a pause, go within, look for a deeper answer, and then something will come out, which is very nice. Now, to get to that state of consciousness, we have to work on it. And the reason I became what I became is not just about intellectual or hard work and this and that. I started practicing meditation a long time ago. And why I did that, I'll tell you a story. So we used to live in Haridwar. A lot of people used to come and visit the temples. And I would go with them to the mountain, stand in front of the deity, in front of the temple. And I noticed something weird, which we all notice, but we don't catch that, which is they are all closing their eyes. So you came all the way, you climbed the mountain, you stood in front of your deity, and you closed your eyes at the moment of prayer. That told me that what they are really praying to is within. So then my whole approach to who I am, where should I look for answers, changed to within. And I started meditating on things. And meditation brought a lot of new ideas, new intuitions, a lot of weird things that I was not getting from outside. So you can read all day long, but the kind of intuitions you get from within is very different and profound. And then I started looking at the history of innovation, and I found that everybody, all the great scientists, meditated, right? Archimedes found his answer in when he was most relaxed in the tub, right? Steve Jobs has a meditation room. So that is another part that where do we look for answers that we have? Should we only look outside? Or is there another thing within that we can look for answers? And, as parents, we don't send our children without a phone and say, if there is a problem, call me. So how can we believe that God has sent us on this earth without a phone, which is, call me when you need help? And that ability to call yourself and say, oh, I'm in trouble, I'm down, I need help. I can always look for answer on ChatGPT and all these places. But how do I look within is a new skill we have to start on. The eagerness with which we go to ChatGPT for every little thing is actually moving us away from ourselves. And I think that is one of the dangers of, technology. It is making information and solace and comfort and companionship so easy outside that we have forgotten, the true sense of who we are within us. And I think this is something that I see as the big dangers. Job losses, yes. Skill losses, even more. But loss of sense of identity and purpose is a very, very profound thing. And we should use the tools only to the level they are useful, not beyond. And that wisdom we have to develop. That, and, that is the new world we live in, the consciousness versus technology tussle. That is goal.
Fantastic. No. So to sum up for this modern generation, Gen Zs, Gen Alphas, so what you're saying, if you're clear about what you want to become, and you recognize what you're being today, that means you recognize that there are a lot of genetical impressions when you were born that came through genetics inherited from your grandparents and parents, and epigenetics that you have acquired through your this life, through your surroundings that you have, whether your friends, relations. So these are epigenetics that you have accumulated. These are impressions. These are what in our ancient wisdom they're called samskaras, right? Now, once you're clear about what you want to become, then you slowly start recognizing these samskaras or these impressions that are part of you. And then you're saying, okay, let's use what Lord Krishna said, right? Chit, Man, Buddhi, and Ahankar, right? These are the subtle bodies. Chit is the consciousness that evolves or expands as your beliefs dissolves, and your beliefs dissolve when your mindset transforms. Your mindset transforms when you get new knowledge, intellect. So Man, Buddhi, and Ahankar. When Buddhi grows, mind transforms and dissolves the old beliefs or impressions. So if you're clear about what you want to become, there's a methodology that has been there for centuries that you can follow. And what you're saying is, if your becoming is clear, your purpose is clear, automatically you start deciding on the information you'll not feed yourself. You're not in just subtraction mode, you're also conscious about what you want to add. So this addition and subtraction is part of life. You have to be careful on what you want to add, but if you already are in a process of subtraction and adding through new intellect, so you're conscious about not giving away your attention to all the digital large language models that billions of dollars are going towards the Gen Z and Gen Alpha's attention.
Yeah.
And then what you're saying is, hey, once you now are seeing small incremental value and progress in this direction, then use this age-old process called meditation. Then you'll start seeing that you'll start going deeper and deeper within yourself because answers exist within you,
Yes.
right? Because now you're clear about the purpose of meditation because, like you said, meditation is not a process of thoughtlessness. Meditation is a process of focus.
Focus. Yes.
Is that focus is so essential to manifest to your becoming, and you're saying, hey, that's a tool,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Yes. So this reminds me of a very interesting story, Mullah Nasruddin's story. You know, Chacha Chaudhary's story is like a collection of stories. So one day he's a spiritual guru and he's looking for his keys in some area, here. And his shishas come and say, "What are you looking for?" He said, "I lost my keys." And they said, "Did you lose there, in that area where you look?" He said, "No, I lost it there." Then they said, "Why are you looking there?" He said, "Because the light is there." So we tend to, look for the right answers in the wrong place. And that is also a type of wisdom that you need to develop, right? If you have a certain doubt about yourself, if you're depressed, if you're doing this, if you're going through hard times, where would you look, right? Is also a type of wisdom. We have to look in the right places. And what I have found is that looking within has always given me most authentic answers that I can relate. That
Our vision is to give back to the community and give back the wisdom that folks like Dr. Shailesh Kumar have gained over decades of experiences and have become very successful in balancing their life with their both materially and spiritually and understanding deeply about consciousness. So I would like Dr. Shailesh to share how can people reach out and what would you like them to share with you so that you can give away some of your time as mentorship?
Yeah, so I would love to hear about what is your vision of your life, what you want to become, and what is your vision of the country, right? Of India or whichever country you come from. What is your vision of the future of humanity, right? Looking at the current context, if you can articulate your vision about yourself and humanity, we would love to hear that. And then, we'll pick some of the very interesting things that come out of that, and would love to spend one-on-one time with you to discuss and brainstorm and mentor, in any capacity.
Fantastic. So Dr. Shailesh Kumar has shared that, and there's a link below which has a form that you can fill up. Please fill up, and we'll shortlist you for the one-on-one session. Dr. Shailesh, thank you so much.
Thank you, and all the best to your viewers. I hope we all can contribute to a higher purpose, take India to the next level, Vision 2047, make India a developed country. And it cannot happen only because government is doing things, bottom-up innovation, bottom-up entrepreneurship with the purity of heart and a clarity of mind is absolutely necessary to get us there. And all the best.
And finally, future is not about how intelligent we become. It should be how conscious are we. Thank you.
Thank you.
Being conscious.